All right, what's going on, people? We are back.
You
JV Wins Dogon SS here for another edition of the Conscious Approach channel on YouTube. Thanks to everybody for tuning in, following along with us, hitting that subscribe button, hitting that like button, joining us along for the ride. We certainly appreciate it as we continue to kick this logical content each and every week, each and every day. So, shouts out to all the folks that's been, hitting that button, leaving those comments, letting us know what you think about the videos. We certainly appreciate the engagement, especially when you tell us how we're crazy and we don't know what we're talking about. Those are my favorite kind of comments. Shouts out, I guess, to the Boston Celtics during the NBA Finals. I don't know what's going on. We'll see what happens with it going back to Dallas. I'm still hoping that Dallas does something, but the Celtics winning the championship to me is just gross.
It's gross.
Yeah, it's gross. But whatever. With that out of the way, we'll go ahead and get things kicked off. First up, we're going to talk about some interesting comments made about Ray J, who believes that his fun tape with Kim Kardashian, the infamous Kim Kardashian tape, altered the course of history in his eyes. Now, that's obviously a grandiose way to describe what he's feeling, but Ray J was recently on Club Shay Shay with Shannon Sharpe, and Shannon Sharpe asked him, does he regret making the tape? How does he think things? In what ways do he think, him being Ray J, that things would have been different had they not made the tape? And Ray J has some interesting thoughts on that. So this kind of made the mainstream as well as the internet airwaves, this particular interview. But ever since Cat Williams, pretty much any Club Shay Shay interview now is going to get talked about, at least to some respect. So Ray J feels like he played a part in kind of changing the way humanity operates when it comes to this kind of stuff, viral content, this, that, and the third. So interesting comments that we thought we would get into here on Conscious Approach. So this here says, Ray J ponders whether a sex tape with Kim Kardashian altered the course of humanity. As the wisdom, the Holiday Reporter just shared in late May goes, anyone who wants their career or name to go viral must speak with former NFL player Shannon Sharpe on his podcast, Club Shay Shay. Well, it is happening again, this time with singer and one-time sex tape star Ray J, who took time to ponder the ripple effects of his sex tape with Kim Kardashian and wax philosophical about humanity. Ray J, who besides starring in the early to the sex tape game encounter with Kim Kardashian, filmed in 2003 and released in 2007, is a musician who is now touting a new single, Throwing Stacks. But the former topic got the 43-year-old father of two thinking about the impact of the famous sex tape dubbed Kim Kardashian Superstar, which ultimately made the Kardashian family a household name. So these are just quotes of what Ray J said, but we'll just scroll all the way down here and we'll play this snippet of Ray J talking about how he feels about that tape. So Shannon Sharpe starts this thing off by asking him how much different would his life be had he not done the tape, which includes his family life, so on and so forth.
How different is that family, or is that family life?
I think more of the question is, how different would we all be? How different would this whole fucking thing be? How different would the industry be? How different would the wheel roll? Everything would be different. We would all be different. All of us. Everybody in here would be different. We'll have on different clothes.
What you mean?
Everything would be different, meaning like you would never ask me that question. Meaning if we sat here right now and we got to this point, what, like, I don't know, probably more people would be going to college and, you know what I'm saying, getting an education and be successful. There might not be any Onlyfans and other things like that, other opportunities like that. So, I mean, are we a part of the cure? Are we a part of the disease? I don't fucking know. All I know is I'm just trying to make it right.
Were you ever embarrassed when the tape came out?
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah, it's a long pause, ain't it?
got to say, bro?
Yeah. I have kids now, so when I have kids,
And
everything that we did now when I have kids is just totally different. The whole thing is wacky. Before I was just like, but with my kids, it's not okay. And so I can't, without me going too far into it, without me getting in trouble. Yeah, I mean, nah, it's not okay now. But I'm 43 with a kid that's 4 and a kid that's 6. My daughter's 6, my son's 4. And even though you're young, and even in that young kid world, they'll all probably think it's fucking cool.
Yeah.
Until you have kids.
Right.
Until you have kids. So he kind of went existential mode. Answering that, he feels like, how different would this whole thing be? Right. So he took it there. He went kind of grandiose with it. So what are your thoughts on what Ray J said? You know, obviously the course of his own personal life is different if he doesn't do it. But what do you make of his insinuation that tape was the start of a ripple effect for a lot of other things that we see going on nowadays?
As wacky as it sounds, man, I agree with him. You know, the butterfly effect of a lot of things. You know, it'd be real nice to see like the actual butterfly effect of certain monumental events that happen in history. Some would say, well, you consider this monumental? Well, socially, yeah, it was. And because before this tape, I didn't know who Kim Kardashian was. And it started her career for the most part. And what ended up happening, I know for one thing, I know you always credited her for being the spark to create a lot of this BBL, Onlyfans, reality TV culture, hell, even down to the accent type of stuff. So for him to say that we'll be wearing different clothes, I mean, it gets down to that point, you know, because let's say that, you know, these women aren't introduced to that. Now, I felt like there was already a curve coming when it came to sexual liberalism or something like that, where women were freeing the nipple kind of thing, or, you know, I felt like we were already going to get to that point at some point. It didn't have to go down this road though, down this channel. And a lot of the women took this channel to free themselves independently, and they took the Kardashian route. And the side effects of that, you know, it has an effect on mating selection, dating. So the ramifications of this socially, I mean, then we got the advent of Insta thoughts, and, you know, we're going crazy online with models. You know, a lot of this stuff happened after this stuff. So for him to go that deep, I feel like he had time to think about his ramifications over the years. And that's why he answered it with such a galaxy brain. And I would say, yeah, I agree. I didn't like the tape when it first came out. I thought that was bad for the culture in general. Just the fact that, you know, people are supporting this type of stuff in the first place. I remember, I mean, like it was yesterday, bro, as far as like the media storm it created. And I wasn't down for that then. And it never stopped. It just basically, like I'm saying, like if there was like a cesspool of garbage, which the industry is, it was going down one channel, but this introduced a new channel where it created a whole new river flowway of garbage. So yeah, I agree with him. That branch that branched off with its sludge created its own subdivision of sludge. So yeah, man, I guess in hindsight he can see what he actually introduced to the game, you know, for a check. You know, and so yeah, I'm pretty sure there's some remorse about that now, but you know, it is what it is. But what are your thoughts, sir, on Sir Ray J going galaxy brain, saying that this tape, yeah, hey, honestly, bro, it's got us talking now. You know, so it's changing the course of history. What are your thoughts, man?
I think that there's legs to what he has to say. I'm not going to hold that tape solely responsible because we've talked via various topics before about how, generally speaking, if you do any sort of research on other societies historically, there is a general descent into decadence before that society crumples under the weight of itself. That is a historical thing that was going on in biblical times. It was going on with all ancient civilizations, all after common era civilizations, Romans, Greeks, Macedonians, Carpathians, you name it. Like, this is not something that I'm making up. This is something that happens throughout history with humanity. When you reach the height of civilization, there's a peak. And then after the peak, there's a gradual descent into decadence. And then and then there's a reset. So I think our society is currently in the slow process of the descent into decadence before ultimately there needs to be a reset. In the midst of that descent into decadence, you have certain catalysts which help move that descent along. And I do think that stuff like that tape was a small catalyst. I do think that. So I don't think that what he's saying is completely out of bounds. I'm not going to go as far as saying that it's the reason why people dress differently or do certain things differently, or less people are going to college versus starting OnlyFans, right? He mentioned that stuff. I do think that those are ramifications, but I'm not going to hold that tape solely responsible. I just think it was a catalyst, but it did play a role, man. That tape came out in 2007, right? Their TV show, the Kardashian reality show, I just looked this up, started in 2007.
Yeah, it was pub for it.
Yeah. So the reason why I'm bringing it up is because instances like that tape created what you and I characterize as the normalization of deviant behavior, to the point where society, entertainment industry, social liberalism, even certain aspects of the political world are making a concerted effort to impress upon people that this kind of behavior is okay because you're embracing yourself. You're being comfortable with who you are. And there's no shame. There's no scarlet letter attached to it, right? Like, there's no apprehensiveness associated with getting involved with such things because, hey, it is what it is. It's all to the good. It's normal, especially when you can make money. We're in, this is capitalism, baby. So get to your bag, as they like to say. So as more and more of these things become normalized, then it's no big deal to see more and more people opting for these kinds of things, because if there's no need for me to feel embarrassed about doing it, and it helps me to not feel embarrassed by it, because there was a person who kind of spearheaded this, who established a precedent that moving forward, you can do this as a realistic proposition without feeling some sort of shame from it. Then it's also something that I can do as well. And the more and more you get people adopting that kind of mindset, the more normalized it becomes, to the point where we're so desensitized to it that it's just an everyday thing. It's no big deal. It's why I often speculate that we are getting to a point where we're literally starting to look at sex work as just working, right? Like punching in, punching out, going to work, doing my thing, instead of going to serve drinks at a bar, or instead of going to be a waitress, or instead of going to work at a store, retail, or something like this, they're turning on the camera and they flicking on the lights and they doing OnlyFans
and serving up the throat.
Yeah, because why not? Like, it's work. Like, there is a desensitization to this stuff that is going on that's so pervasive that the underlying intent behind it is to not view it as a shameful act or something that needs to be handled discreetly, but to be boisterous about it, happy and proud, because this is what I do and it's cool and I'm getting to my bag. And that's just kind of the wave of the way the world, that's kind of the way things are going. And so I think that tape served as a catalyst. It wasn't solely responsible for the degradation. The degradation had already began. I think the tape was merely a catalyst for the degradation, and the timing was perfect. I mean, the tape comes out in 2007. The TV show starts in 2007. Less than 3 years later, you get Instagram. Like you said before, I credit Kim Kardashian with the modern day influencer culture. Like I feel like she's the mother of that.
Right.
Like I feel like she gave birth to it. Like so many of these women, they kind of copied her look, copied her hairstyle, they kind of took cues from her behavior. All of these chicks who want to be influencers, which is basically just a fancy internet way of saying I'm leveraging my body for attention and money. Like they all started to copy what she looks like, the long dark hair in various styles. Some of them started to try to get their skin tone to be tan the way hers is, wear the kind of clothes that she wears, and of course try to get the same kind of body type that she has. So yeah, a lot of this was a perfect storm for a lot of insinuating circumstances taking place at the same time, which contributed to what Ray J is describing when he's talking about would more people be going to college instead of doing OnlyFans. I agree with him from that standpoint. I think it was a catalyst. It wasn't completely responsible, but it did play a role for sure.
Yeah, it played a role, and I think that's all he was trying to get at, is that it had its ramifications deeper than his life and just Kim Kardashian's life, basically. And it did influence some people the wrong way. There were some young ladies that were watching that and became a fan of Kim and took their life in a different direction. So because they got exposed to her and the way she talked and the lifestyle she tried to promote and all that other good stuff. So yeah, it had an impact on people's lives. So was it, and honestly, bro, just like how you mentioned, man, if you just want to give her credit for just at least sparking the minds of these influencer women, how many influencer women that were influenced by her influenced other women? So, the ripple effect or butterfly effect to these types of things, man, you shouldn't be taken lightly. And, one thing about Ray J, he's going to talk about himself in a grandiose kind of way. He'll make anything sound like it was, revolutionary. Just ask him about his scooty bikes. Okay. But at the same time, he does have a point on this one. Because I told you, man, when that thing happened at that time, because I was fully sentient, I was aware of what was happening, and I was disliking stuff then. And when that stuff went down, I was like, this is bad for the culture. I don't like this, especially once I saw how much wings it was growing, like how people was actually bigging this up, and I'm like, how is this even a thing? But nevertheless, we got there, and it's had its effect. And honestly, there's certain topics that we talk about on a weekly basis that if some of these seeds weren't planted, some of these people wouldn't be here. And so, and as you mentioned, yeah, man, bang, bang. Because that was another thing too. I was like, okay, who's this Kim Kardashian woman? And then, this is when it first started. And I was like, I vaguely think I know who this person is, but why is this so important? Because she's dealing with Ray J? I'm saying, who the hell is Ray J? I mean, I don't want one wish on this one. So what's the big deal? I don't understand. And so, but if you now know that there was a media push behind this, I think we also covered a topic back in the day where Ray J was basically saying like how the mother was trying to, she coordinated this. They actually recorded 2 different tapes. And so we saw the one that made the cut. So this was all a part of her mom selling her daughter out so she can, get on and get her career popping. And it worked. And so, yeah, so we got a lot of Kardashian clones running amok. And they wouldn't be going about if that tape didn't happen. I'm pretty sure they would have tried another publicity stunt with another celebrity later. But this one, the one that hit. And I was looking at, tapes, publicity tapes, just a list of some. And there was quite a bit going on in the 2000s, man. But I don't know if you remember the one with what's that woman name? Paris Hilton had one. She had one in 2004.
That was the one that was the biggest one, I think, before the Kardashian one.
That one.
Yeah.
That happened in 2004.
Yeah.
And then but super throwback, Pamela Anderson, that happened in 95.
Yeah. I remember that one too. Yeah.
And even when that happened, I was a young person. I was 10. And then when all this stuff I'm being exposed to this stuff, and I'm like, yo, why is this on network TV? Like, it is kind of inappropriate to talk about on network television. But here I am, a 10-year-old being exposed to this, and other people were. So it's kind of a situation, man, where it became a part of celebrity culture to get on. It was a good publicity stunt in those days. And so yeah, she used it to her advantage. So I agree with Scooty Bikes. I think that yeah, man, it had a big effect. Now, is it as big as it is in his mind? Maybe. But I would just say that it's probably a tier below that, but still a great effect.
It made a hell of a lot of money, man. I remember one of the, like, it was sold to one of those larger adult film companies for like millions of dollars or whatever the case is. So there was a lot going on with this thing. It was more than just some innocent little tape that got out.
Correct.
But in terms of its greater impact on like the world, it can't be ignored, in my opinion. We lament the current sexual marketplace on this channel pretty often. And some people think we're blowing it out of proportion. Personally, I don't. If we were blowing stuff like this out of proportion, then there wouldn't have been the need for people like Kevin Samuels to exist, or there wouldn't have been all of these other dating and relationship podcasts that are proliferating all over the internet. If we're blowing this stuff out of proportion and it's not really a big deal, then none of these content creators would exist, and there would be no need for them. There'd be no market for them, because dating and relationship would still make sense and it would still be sensible. But what we know for a fact is that in many ways, not entirely, I'm not dealing in absolutes, but in many ways, a lot of it does not make sense. And a lot of it has gone off the rails, and a lot of it has jumped the shark. And I think you can sort of I personally chart a lot of that back to the creation of Instagram. Personally, that's my opinion. But if you want to go back even further, Instagram became what it became because it was able to latch on to people like Kim Kardashian, who developed such a sizable following due to stuff like the TV ship, due to stuff like her TV show, which was preceded and made popular by that tape. And so you brought up celebrity culture. And one thing about celebrity culture, particularly in this country, celebrity hero worship is so pervasive in the West. Once something becomes ingrained as pop culture or something to talk about in terms of pop culture, you know that it has become completely normalized. And when something is normalized, there's no need to feel shame or embarrassment or be disconcerted by it in any kind of way, because it's just here and it's normal. It's like smoking weed. Smoking weed used to be something that's kind of frowned upon, but ever since, now obviously it's more deregulated now. We're seeing it legal in other places. But even before it got to that point, it was everywhere in music and movies, and people talked about it casually as if it's no big deal, despite what the law suggests. So once it reaches the pop culture zeitgeist in that way, it's not really a big deal. It sort of takes the air out of the bubble in terms of people looking at it as a weird thing that people shouldn't really do publicly like that, even though we all know everyone does it on a hush hush. This kind of stuff is the same way. These sex workers, this Instagram model stuff, these chicks doing OnlyFans, to me, it's the same trickle down type effect. And if you want to chart it back to that tape, I don't think it's beyond the pale to make that connection, because it did contribute to how a lot of that stuff becomes normalized. So again, I think he has a point. Whether it's solely responsible or not, I wouldn't go that far, but it definitely played a role. And if you think it's not a big deal, then fine. You can think that it's not a big deal. But at the end of the day, you got all of these people on the internet trying to coach men on how to navigate relationships effectively. If it weren't for Kim Kardashian and these types of tapes and other people like her and her cohort, there would be less madness going on when it comes to that kind of stuff. You'd have less of these weirdo standards and people leveraging their physical attractiveness to get whatever they want, despite everybody telling us that it's not about that, and it's all about merit and quality and values and holisticness. But we clearly know that that's not the case if you spend enough time on the internet. So it hasn't completely gone utterly to crap yet, but it's on its way. And I think a lot of these things serve as a catalyst for it.
Yeah, 1,000, man. And last thing I'll say is it also, that tape, when it was coming out and these celebrities doing it, it was also this thing, like you mentioned, as far as like normalizing it, because there was really no shame in it. There was no shame in having your, vagina plaster, for the world to see, and, watching that person getting penetrated, like, real intimate, private moments of somebody that's supposed to be well known. That's supposed to be something that's tucked away. But this was something that she was low key proud of. They were proud of, and it kind of helped shift the mentality of people at that time that was watching that, because we were still in the taboo era back then. And this kind of opened the door for normalizing, because we saw her back outside the next day, basically like nothing happened. And that kind of way of not having a shame about it, and, basically flaunting her body after that. She was just doubling, tripling down. And that kind of helped the normalization of it as well. So as well as like, Amber Rose with her slut walks and stuff, just making it seem as though I have no shame about this tabooish type of situation. So I don't feel like people should be ashamed of who they are sexually, and they should be comfortable with their body and all that other good stuff. Like, I'm not here in the business of shaming, but at the same time, posting stuff like that for the world to see, for anybody to see on the internet, where all age groups can get access to it, it could have its ramifications. And I think that this did. So, you can't really quantify it, but I've seen enough to know that this woman's influence on the world was a little too much for me. And she didn't get her rise in popularity until this moment. So, yeah, interesting stuff. When they do they look back in pop culture history, Kim Kardashian name will pop up somehow, some way, because she had a mark on the last decade. And so, and then at some point they're going to go down the line, and then he's going to be there. They're going to talk about that tape. So he's a part of history, whether we like it or not. So, he's got a point there.
Yeah, he does. He does. And I mean, like, at the end of the day, let's just be honest about it. She's been celebrated for this. Like, I don't really see any way that this has cost her. She's become an international global superstar. All she's done is become a multi-millionaire in the aftermath of it. And so that's the aspect of it that seeps into everyone's like consciousness, is this is the reward this is what I get for making a sex tape. This is what I get for doing that kind of content. That's what I get. Fortune, fame, and unlimited access to whatever I want. And everybody celebrates me and every fiber of my being. Why should I turn away from that? And so that's the normalization of it that I'm speaking of. Like, it kind of seeps into it, and it's like, it's no big deal. It is what it is. Onlyfans, let's do it. Everybody's doing it.
Hey, but let us know down in the comment section, guys. What do you guys think? You guys think Ray J's got a point? You agree with his galaxy brain theory that, hey, man, it's even changing the kind of clothes you wearing? I'll tell you one thing right now. I wouldn't be asking you this question if you ain't never do that. I got you. Yeah. Let us know in the comment section.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. But I wonder, would there be a Brittany Renner and a Brittany Renner book if there was no Kim K tape? Not saying that there wouldn't be. It's just something to think about.
Might be. Well, there was a Superhead, so there still might be a Brittany Renner.
Maybe, but Superhead was around before Kim K. Kim K made it mainstream, is my point. So Superhead wasn't mainstream. The rappers knew about Superhead. I don't know if Superhead was mainstream like Kardashian was.
Superhead. Shout out to Superhead.
Well, the rappers and Eddie Winslow, they knew about Superhead.
Yo, Eddie Winslow, bro. Hey, tighten up, Eddie. I don't know what you got going on, bro. You out of pocket right now. Jeez.
Now we're going to talk about comments made by Shaq. Shaq subtly said during an NBA TV telecast of the NBA Finals, he somewhat hinted that he wasn't the best player during his time playing for the Lakers. And of course, he played with Kobe during the time for the Lakers, somewhat implying that Shaq is at this point copping to the idea that Kobe was the best player on the Lakers and not Shaq. Now, yes, I'm a Kobe stan, but those are Shaq's words, not mine. So let me be clear about that. I'm not saying
you sure about
this
that?
is what Shaq is saying. This is not me. This is not JV Wynn saying this. This is what Shaq is saying. We're just talking about what he said. All right. So this says Shaquille O'Neal makes candid Kobe Bryant admission to give Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown finals advice. Shaquille O'Neal shared some advice for Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown during NBA TV's pregame coverage of the NBA Finals on Sunday night. In doing so, he reflected on his relationship as a teammate with Kobe Bryant during their Los Angeles Lakers title runs. He admitted that he was never the best player on the team and had to accept being the second option for the team to succeed. Quote, in my Laker runs, I wasn't the best player on the team, O'Neal admitted. I knew that, but I knew I was the most dominant. So I knew my role. I knew what I had to do. I wasn't worried about these useless titles. So if those two young gentlemen talking about Tatum and Brown are worried about useless titles, it will definitely affect them tonight. Not only affect them this game, but they will lose the series. So I think there's a video of Shaq saying this. Yeah, here it is. So I might have to open up a new link real quick. Let me see. Okay, no, I should be good. All right, so here's Shaq saying all of this stuff about him not being the best player when he played for the Lakers.
A canny move from Jason Kidd. He's been around the block a time or two. And Shaq, you immediately reacted thinking this is going to have an effect tonight somehow.
Yeah, I think if you're worried about useless titles, when I was young, I worried about useless titles, but when I stopped worrying about useless titles, start winning championships. In my Laker runs, I wasn't the best player on the team. I knew that, but I knew I was the most dominant. So I knew my role. I knew what I had to do. I wasn't worried about a useless title. So if those two young gentlemen are worried about useless titles, who's the best on the team, whose team it is, it will definitely affect them tonight. Jalen has been playing well, and that's why when you're a boxer, the one or the two can knock you out. Either I haven't seen a lot of great fighters get knocked out by the jab. I haven't seen a lot of great fighters get knocked out by the knockout punch. This is the first time I actually seen these guys play up close. And, Jaylen Brown had a fabulous game, but, Tatum does a great job of getting everybody else involved. He's a little different than myself, Steve, and Grant, because at this point in our career, I'm going to get it, man. I'm letting the world know. But he came out, he used his aggression, he let everybody get involved, which gives this guy, Jaylen Brown, room to operate. So, again, if these two young gentlemen are worried about useless titles, whose team it is, who's the best player, not only will it affect this game, but they will lose the series.
What's this nigga wearing, bro?
I don't like the Celtics, but Jaylen Brown is a baller.
He's balling, man.
Yeah, Jaylen Brown is a baller. So what do you make of what Shaq said there?
Well, I'm glad he admitted it. I'm glad he admitted it. I agree with that. So as a hater of the Lakers, I was more than objective about their title runs. How many Kobe got? 5. I'm already taking one away for the Kings series. I'm already taking one away for that. That's how objective I am. So I didn't care for their run. I felt as though they were getting a lot of privileged calls. And it was more than just that King series or that year. But with that being said, me being so objective with this, while I was watching in those moments, Shaq was the most dominant player, but he clearly wasn't the most skilled basketball player on the court at the time. And so the person that you really had to worry about was Kobe, if Kobe really got in his back, because one thing that Shaq was going to do was he was going to clog up the paint, do his thing, but you didn't know if today was going to be the day where he's going to miss a lot of free throws. It's going to take you out of it. You didn't know if he was going to get into foul trouble. You didn't know what was going to go on. So Shaq was always the kind of the wild card kind of thing, but the one stable person that I knew that I could count on to hate on was Kobe. Yeah, it was Kobe, because he was just going to do stuff. And I know Shaq could be limited, but I knew if Kobe if he wanted to be on that day, then there was nothing that anybody can do to stop it. So I'm glad he admitted that. It took some, big standing up to do. I heard so many stories on the back end, especially that run that Kobe had when he was dropping all those 40-point performances.
Mm-hmm.
And then he about to set a record, but Shaq is there. And Phil Jackson got to tell him he got to tell Kobe hey, man, fall back, bro. We're about to lose Shaq. And the reason why they had to keep having those moments of we're about to lose Shaq is because Shaq could clearly see that this guy puts in the work while I'm sleeping. He puts in the work while I'm not putting in the work. And while he's on the floor at Kobe, that is, out there shining and performing at a high level, Shaq can clearly see why he's doing that at that moment, because he sees the work that he's putting in. He also knows that the only reason why he's doing what he's doing is because of his freakish nature of being that tall and being athletic. That's Shaq, that is. And so Shaq, his dominance came from him being such a big person and being athletic with that. Not to say that he didn't have skills, but if Shaq was as skilled as Kobe, we'll be having a whole bunch of different conversations, who the greatest player of all time was. So Shaq has a very good point here. And I like that how he was shooting it straight, not holding any punches. I really appreciate his honor of Kobe, even before his passing, because he was giving Kobe his flowers before he even passed. So Shaq is just continuing that trend here. Last thing I'll say before I let you go, this Brown and Tatum thing, a very interesting dynamic, man. I like the little wrench that Jason Kidd threw in there, saying that Jaylen Brown's better. I was, sowing division. I like that, great attempt. It looked like they took the bait, at least in interviews, but they still came out and showed out for game 2. So we'll see what happens for game 3. But overall, I like the advice for these young men. Hopefully they take heed, but who knows what's brewing in that locker room. But what are your thoughts, man, on Sir Shaq admitting that, hey, he wasn't even the best player on his team? What are your thoughts?
I agree as well. Which should come as no surprise.
Boo.
Now, now the numbers are not going to support that. The numbers won't support that. In 2000, when they played the Pacers in the finals, Shaq was putting up 38 a game. Kobe was putting up 16 a game. Shaq was putting up 17 rebounds. Kobe had 5. Now, Kobe had him in assists and steals. But then Shaq would have them in blocks. And then in 2001, when they gentlemen swept the Sixers, Kobe was putting up 25 a game. Shaq was putting up 33 a game. Shaq with his 16 rebounds a game. Kobe had 8 rebounds a game. Kobe once again had him in assists and steals, and then Shaq would have him in blocks 3-1. And then in 2002, when they beat the then New Jersey Nets, Shaq 36 a game, Kobe 27 a game. Shaq 12 rebounds a game, Kobe 6 rebounds a game. Again, Kobe has him in assists and steals, of course. And then Shaq coming in with the blocks 3-1. So the numbers don't support that. But the thing that's interesting about basketball is you actually watch it. And putting myself back in the mind frame of watching these games, I can remember vividly the way I always felt like the opponent, whether not the Sixers, I never felt like the Sixers had a chance.
They didn't.
A one-man band man with Iverson. But the Nets and the Pacers, there were moments throughout those series where I felt like they could possibly win if they exploited certain weaknesses. But then Kobe would just do stuff, and the Lakers would win the game. Now, Shaq would still dominate the paint and put up his numbers.
Right.
but they also ran an orchestrated offense in the triangle that made the effort to feed the post. It's kind of the way that system is designed. It's not freewheeling like that, which, as an aside, always makes the numbers comparison between Kobe and LeBron laughable to me, because nobody ever brings that up. Like for Kobe's entire career, while he was in his prime and even after that, he mostly played in a system that wasn't necessarily predicated on him compiling all of these counting numbers. Whereas LeBron was the system and continues to be the system, so he can just pick up all of these numbers because it just operates around him, and then everybody says he's better because of the numbers. But not to bring LeBron into it, that's just an aside. But like, I watched the games and Shaq would do his thing. They run a triangle, and the Lakers sometimes would get into a little bit of trouble in certain games. You know, they would end up dominating for the most part overall in terms of the outcome. But during the games, things would get a little hairy, and then Kobe would just do stuff and just get the team out of it, especially at the end of the game, because Shaq wasn't reliable at the free throw line, and Kobe was always reliable at the free throw line. So I always felt like Shaq was the most physically imposing player, and he was uniquely built to accommodate the triangle, and he was a great player. I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but with my eyes, I always felt like individually Kobe was a superior player, even though he had yet to come into his own in terms of his prime. Now, right around 2002, when Shaq started becoming less reliable with his injuries, and he was getting toe injuries and sitting out games because his big toes messed up, and he has other things going on where Kobe now becomes the number one guy, and Kobe's flying all over the place doing crazy windmill reverse dunks and scoring 40 and 50 a game, and the Lakers are winning the game. I was like, oh no, it's out of control. Like at that point, it was like, okay, this guy's the best player in the league to me, bar none. I don't care what anybody says, even if he is playing with Shaq. And it just became so obvious to me, but Shaq was still on the team, and he sort of carried such a massive shadow, or rather he casted such a massive shadow because of who he was. But, you know, after the three-peat, well, during the third year of the three-peat, and then continuing on into 2004 before eventually Shaq got traded to the Heat in the summer of 2004, to me it became clear who the better player was. And I think eventually, in retrospect, Kobe became vindicated, especially when he went back-to-back in 2009 and 2010. And Shaq got carried by Dwayne Wade and referees in 2006 when he won his fourth championship with the Heat. So, you know, that's just my opinion. A lot of the smart people on TV will always ride for Shaq in this way, and that's fine. I accept that. But I always felt like Kobe was better. And mind you, oddly enough, I didn't even start liking Kobe until the end of the Kobe Shaq Lakers. Like 2000 to 2002, I was always rooting against them. I wanted the Sacramento Kings to win so bad. And one of the more crushing memories of my sports watching life was when Robert Horry hit that three against the Kings in game, what was that, game 5? Because the Lakers would, no, it was game 4, because the Lakers would have went down 3-1 that series. Like that was it. Like the Kings were up 2-1 in LA, getting ready to go back to Sacramento, and Robert Horry hits that damn three.
Can't believe it.
And they win the game, and the rest is history. The Lakers end up winning in 7 games. Like, I was rooting against the Lakers so hard back then. But once it became clear to me, okay, Kobe's the number one guy in the league to me, you know, it was over as far as I'm concerned. So, yeah, I agree. The numbers won't support it. They say he's the most dominant player ever, whatever. The numbers won't support it. And this provides an interesting nexus of how do you weight skill versus overall effectiveness in terms of how you evaluate one particular player over another? Like, how much do you weight skill versus all of this other stuff? So, like, for me, to me, skill is a big deal. It's one of my 3 pillars in terms of how I look at players, in terms of how good they really are. It's an equal parts for me: skill, individual achievement, and then like championships. All 3 of them to me are equally weighted. And I've which means I put skill in a high regard.
Mhm.
And you can be a very effective player, but I can kind of see through that. And if there's other guys who are effective and they're more skilled, and they're actually a plus in the plus minus column when it comes to winning, unlike people like Kyrie Irving, then I'm going to say that I think that that guy was better. So yeah, I'm team Kobe all day.
Yeah, man, that was that Robert Ory shot, that one hurt. Outside of Heat games where shots hurt my feelings, Jordan's shot on Russell hurt me. That crushed me. It's not like I even liked the Jazz. I just wanted Jordan to lose. And then when he hit that shot, I was like, this bastard, man. That Robert Ory shot was gut-wrenching.
It was devastating. Yeah.
I believe it. I was literally hopping up and down mad when that happened. And then I can't remember the exact moment, but I think Derek Fisher has one too, where he hit like a very important three in the corner for a game winner. Pissed me the hell off. I was really cheering against the Lakers, man. I was big time hater, dog. I ain't gonna lie. So that's why I said like it was like towards the end of Kobe's career where I started to I started to appreciate what I was watching more. And so if Shaq, like I mentioned earlier, if Shaq took his job as seriously as Kobe did, because Shaq was more talented, in my opinion, especially as far as a phenom, than Kobe was. Like Kobe had to do a lot of extra work to live up to his potential. Shaq had so much potential that he didn't even tap into. There's no reason he should shoot free throws like that, amongst other things. And I don't think he worked on his game hard enough. And so Shaq knows that. And he's so from his perspective, he knew that there were times where, even though, like you mentioned in the box score, Shaq had 36 and 15 that night, he knew that Kobe carried him that night. And so as crazy as that sounds.
Right. Yeah.
And so and like you said, for Kobe to do it on the redemption tour with just Paul Gasol, he had Lamar Odom and stuff like that, but let's be serious. It was just Paul Gasol, and he did it off muscle. So yeah, man, you got to respect that. So yeah, man, I mean, I still got Kobe way up there high on my list, man. He's not, I still think that there's people better than him, but he's still high up there on my list. And would I put Kobe ahead? I have been putting Kobe ahead of Shaq. So, it's just that if I'm starting a franchise, who am I picking though? It's kind of hard to not pick Shaq though.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's still, I mean, I don't care. Give me 6'2", 300 pounds. I don't care. Give me that. And then y'all figure out the rest. So I like that. And for Jaylen Brown and Tatum, to get back on that real quick, I had a discussion with a homeboy a couple years ago, talking about these two. And I'm sitting here playing daily fantasy. So I watch games that I normally wouldn't watch. And I'm watching Celtics games on the weekends or whatever. And Jaylen Brown has his moments. But when Jaylen Brown decided to tap in that day, he was more unstoppable than Jason Tatum when Jason Tatum decided to tap in. So it was a hot take at the moment. But I said, hey, if I'm starting a franchise and I had to pick between one of these two, then I'm taking Jaylen Brown.
That is a hot take.
That was a hot take, especially 2 years ago. But I played enough daily fantasy to watch these guys' metrics to see how their trends and performances are. And I was more sold on Jaylen Brown as being more stable than Tatum was. And this series, what it showed me for the most part, is that Tatum has been reduced to a role player, as he should. As he should. So, because if Tatum had to be number one star guard and, he had to fill it up for these guys to win, and he's taking up all the shot and being valued, then he would be taken away from the greatness that we're watching. But the guys on his team are so good that, today it's Holiday. Yesterday it was Porzingis. Tomorrow it might be Derek White. And he don't have to drop 30 and get 10, even though he can, but he doesn't have to do that. And that was the best. That's the way he should have been playing the whole time as a teammate. Because if Tatum was just being a teammate and a very high tier role player, then we won't be having these discussions of them losing so many times in the playoffs. Same thing goes for a lot of these air quote superstars that's floating around the NBA right now. There are too many people. Just because you're the best player on your team doesn't make you a superstar or a max player. That just means you're the best player on that team. Even though you're the best player on the team, you should be the third best player on somebody's team. And so right now, what we're witnessing right now is Tatum is the clear number 2 right now, what we're witnessing. But then sometimes he's the third best on the floor or even the fourth. And but rightfully so, because at that point, when a guy like Tatum is actually the third or best person on the floor, who's going to beat your team? You're going to be blowing people out by 20. So I think more teams need to take heed to this and structure their teams differently so they can have attacks all over the floor. They don't have to be max guys all over the place, just highly talented, well-played basketball players. So if the Celtics win, I credit the Heat for this. Yeah, I'm giving the Heat credit because we the ones that bust them up enough to show them how to win. And we gave them some true dog fights. And they had to basically brace themselves to beat us. And now they're beating everybody because of that. So shout out to the Heat, man. I'm still going to take credit for this. If the Celtics win.
Tatum is an interesting player. He has physical superstar ability, but I just don't think he's a superstar player. And I think it's due to his approach to playing. Well, first of all, real quick to your comment about the Celtics, I think it takes an organization that runs itself well to know how to actually put a roster together. And I think what we're seeing clearly across all professional sports, not just in the NBA, but most organizations don't know how to put rosters together. They don't know how to be well run. And there are so many of them that have other interests ahead of winning championships. They want to get a marquee superstar player so that they can actually have the organization make money in terms of tickets and season tickets and marketing and all of that. So there's a lot of those other considerations that certain organizations care about more than others. And I think the Celtics are one of those organizations that just wants to win. And they have smart people working in the organization that know how to put rosters together. And most organizations across professional sports don't. So I guess respect to them for that. But when it comes to Tatum, his approach to playing basketball is what limits his ability to be an actual superstar, because his shot selection, in my opinion, is deplorable. He's what is he, 6'8"? He's 6'8". He has a physical advantage over every single matchup on any given night in which he plays in the game. Yet he insists on relegating himself to step back, sidestep, threes, and jump shots, and just high degree difficulty shots. And one thing Charles Barkley has always said, and I believe this to be true, is the measure of a good player and the measure of a good team is his and its ability to generate easy baskets. I don't like LeBron, but one thing that I will say about LeBron, if LeBron give the ball up, he gonna be making cuts. He gonna be trying to go for these lobs. He gonna be getting them backdoor screens. You know what I'm saying? He gonna be shading the guy with the little shimmy so that he can get into the paint to get layups. He gonna be getting to the free throw line, getting free throws. Jason Tatum does none of that. Jason Tatum is dribble, do a move, step back 3, dribble, do a move, sidestep 2, dribble, do a move. And if it's a clear lane to the basket, then he may get to the paint. But once he gets there, he's going to try and go up and under and do all of this other stuff to avoid contact instead of trying to get through the contact and maybe get the and one. So he's one of these many players in the NBA, and you speak on this a lot. These guys who ran through all of the drills coming up doing AAU basketball and Nike camps and all of this other stuff, right? So they do all of the drills. They do the cones. They know how to do the side steps. They can dribble like crazy. They know how to do all of these step backs. So they do the drills. They got the drills down to a science. And they say that these guys are more skilled. And they get into the game, and this is how they try to generate their offense. And if they're hot that night and the shots are going in, it looks good.
Right.
But if they're not going in because their degree of difficulty is up here, they
Correct.
don't have a plan B.
Correct.
They don't play off the ball. They ain't trying to get playoff screens. They ain't trying to get their cuts. They're not trying to get into the paint. They're not trying to do any of this. Free throw line, none of that. Layups, putbacks, crash the boards. They're not doing any of those things. They are a one-trick pony, and if that one trick isn't working, they're basically just going to continue to try to shoot their way back into the game.
Right.
And then they're 14 for 29, and yeah, they got their 30-plus points, but in all likelihood, the team probably lost the game. Jason Tatum is the poster child for approaching playing that way.
Right.
And so long as he continues to approach playing that way, there will always be speculation as to whether he's even the best player on his own team, let alone being somebody who's good enough to be the best player on a team that can win the championship. I mean, so maybe this year by default, he's the best player on a team that can win the championship. But as you suggested, they have an extremely well put together roster. Correct. So he can be the best player by default. But during the finals, he has looked like at best the third best player on the team
throughout the whole playoffs.
So that's his problem. And until he figures that out, he will never be an elite player, in my opinion. He'll just be another one of these guys who's tall and can dribble, pass, and shoot. And that's it.
Yeah, he's like this generation's Paul George.
Yeah.
So smooth game, nice to watch, difficult shots. But when it comes to certain moments, it's like, where you at, bro? Like all this smooth stuff, like when is this going to translate into like ripping the heart out of somebody's chest? You know, Reggie Miller would do that to people. He would rip the heart out of people's chest. I mean, there was times where my heart would stop when he played the Pacers because he was wide open. And it's not even a Steph Curry, it's not even Steph Curry hitting threes. It was a different time and age. But even then, man, when he was open, I was, And so when Tatum be shooting, I'm like, that's off, bro. Like, that's off, bro. I'm not scared of this. And so, and this is us watching us, play the Celtics all the time. And, Celtics fans can attest to this. We've had their number. And we've had their number because all this talent, they don't know what to do with it. So much like how Shaq was saying, he's a talented guy, physically gifted, out of this world. And so he should be the best basketball player on his team, but he wasn't. And so, again, I applaud him for admitting that. Because not so many people would do that, especially basketball players. But for him to admit that, I give him kudos. And so we'll see what happens with all of this stuff, man. Hopefully Tatum don't take this weird and he just ride this out and just be on a good team and then win for years instead of try to be his own superstar garbage or somebody try to pull that number. Like whatever what this roster is, like high key, they can do this again next year and, mess around, try to three-peat because this roster is thick enough. So, good luck for him. And let's see what happens, man.
Yeah. I just don't think he's built for it. I just think he's a great high-end player. Yeah. And there's no slouch in that. But this notion of superstar, you have to have a well-rounded game and you have to be able to be effective and score in a multitude of ways. You got to be able to play on and off ball, and you have to be able to positively affect the team without constantly needing to have the ball in your hands doing stuff all the time. And you got to be able to know how to generate easy baskets for yourself. And he's not someone who can do that. I've been watching him for enough years to see, all of his step back threes and all of this kind of stuff. That's his game. That's right. His game. So it is what it is.
Oh, and last thing, and not to say that they don't need Tatum on the team, because clearly they wouldn't even be here in this position if Tatum's not on the team. So they need him. He is valuable, but the overhypeness is starting to show its its head.
Well, it's the questions over whether he's the face of the NBA.
It's because he's not even the face of his own team at this
point. Yeah. If you put Jaylen Brown's approach to playing basketball in Jason Tatum's body, correct, you'd have a superstar player. Correct. But then again, that's how you know God exists, because you can't just put the perfect vessel out there. Like, it just doesn't happen.
Hey man, they said Jordan walked on water, bro. At least that's what they told me.
Yeah, I guess.
That's what they tell me. I don't believe that, but that's what they tell.
Oh man. Now we're gonna talk about Nick Cannon, friend of the channel, Nick Cannon. Nick Cannon is going viral because he recently had his testicles insured. Now, yeah, man, this is an interesting story. So Nick Cannon, the proudly public polygamist, right? He has his 11, 12 kids, however many kids he got from however many different women. Somebody give us the count. I lost it, but it's a lot and a lot. Mm-hmm. But Nick Cannon, via a recent partnership with Sasquatch, that company that makes those male grooming products, they make the soaps and stuff. They apparently had Nick Cannon's sexual reproductive organs evaluated and insured for up to $10 million.
Evaluated?
Yeah. I don't know how that works, but apparently it works like that. So I found this pretty interesting. So this says Nick Cannon has testicles insured for $10 million, secures most valuable balls title. It's no secret that Nick Cannon is something of a baby-making machine, and according to Dr. Squatch, this means that his reproductive organs are worth big bucks. Recently, the father of 12 teamed up with the personal care company to get his private parts evaluated using their ball valuation tool. His testicles were assessed at a whopping $10 million, something the Wild 'N Out host can certainly be proud of. Moreover, the company even officially took out a policy on his genitals through MMA Momentous Insurance, proving just how far they're willing to go to make sure that his most precious assets stay protected. In a statement about the impressive assessment, Cannon fired back at those who criticized him for having so many kids in the past. He also confirmed that he has no plans of slowing down anytime soon. Haters say it's time for me to stop having kids and put this super sperm to rest, he began proudly. But I'm doubling down on these valuable balls and my future kids. Shout out to Dr. Squatch for giving my balls the credit they deserve and hooking me up with the protection I need to keep this family tree rolling. This isn't the first time Cannon's hinted at adding even more little ones to his family tree either. Back in March, the prolific entertainer made a bold joke about reproducing with Jocelyn Hernandez during a TV appearance. Unsurprisingly, however, it left their audience split. So let me see if I can. No, I don't want to do that. Okay, never mind.
No.
Yeah, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. So you can click on that, and I meant to actually play that before I can actually do it because all I got to do,
get past
started after that sound,
and
then we will be good. So, all right. So here's a little promo for this whole balls $10 million ball thing with Nick Cannon.
$10 million. I've officially got the most valuable balls in the world.
Nick Cannon's golden balls are single-handedly keeping the human population afloat. He's fathered 12 children that he knows of and shows no signs of stopping.
Smooth game gets you nowhere without smooth balls to match. For that, I trust Dr. Squatch.
Okay.
All right, so interesting to hear what you think about this. Nick Cannon had his balls evaluated for $10 million. What's the name of this insurance company again? MMA Momentous Insurance. So that's what Dr. Squatch did, and that was the determination, $10 million. Do you think this is a thing that we can start doing out here in these streets? What do you make of Nick Cannon's balls being valued at $10 million?
I think this is a great bit. I think this is great promo. I think that's all it is. And because there's no way there's an actual balls appraiser. Is this a self-examination, Nick Cannon, or did the Swatch CEO use his device to evaluate. I can't get down with this, if this was a real thing, but to me, this is a very elaborate joke. Now they can probably pull up some paperwork and say that they actually did get it insured, but for the most part, I think that this is actually good promo. Dr. Swatch, whatever you call it is, it's making its climb. We've seen their ads on YouTube and other spaces. I'm starting to see them more prevalent in grocery stores. I think they hit this curve where they can actually start investing in sponsors or not, investing in celebrities and stuff like that. So they tap Nick Cannon on this. That's a great pull. It's a great pull. Yeah. And this is a good running joke that they can continue to lay into to keep people interested. It has a bit of a most interesting man in the world kind of vibe to it, where they're approaching it where it's satirical and they're getting at you, and they're tapping into that man core where every man out there, they want to be the player, they want to be the whatever person. So if they're going to lean into this as, hey, look, Nick Cannon uses it, and he's a potent man. And if you want to be a potent man who's slaying all these ladies out here and, having your own legacy and family tree populating, be like Nick Cannon, but use our soap. You know what I'm saying? And so it's a great angle, man. So I can't be mad at this, for a grooming brand that really only deals with male genitalia. How else are you supposed to advertise? So I think it's a good pull. And I think it's going to have its effects, and I think it's going to work, as far as getting more people to buy their products. But what are your thoughts, man, on Sir Nick Cannon getting those balls insured? Holy smokes, by Dr. Swatch.
Yeah, it's a clever campaign. Nick Cannon, the polygamist, the guy who has 12 kids, and you make male products tailored towards men. And so why not, team up with a guy who, at least from a fertility standpoint, represents everything that Dr. Squatch is about, when it comes to making products for the man out there, for the modern man, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, very clever marketing tactic. I think it is a funny bit, and it makes sense. They got the right spokesperson, so I'm not mad at that. Here's what I will say about this overall, though. I don't think it's a bad idea to entertain making something like this a real thing. And I'll even go so far as to say I don't think it's a bad idea to consider making one's ability to have children based upon their insurability. Now I say that tongue in cheek, but I'm also halfway serious. Yeah. Let's look at auto insurance, for example. If you've had one too many accidents, if you've been involved in one too many at-fault accidents, you've totaled one too many vehicles, you cost the insurance company one too many dollars, they drop your ass. They determine that you are uninsurable because of your risk. You get in too many accidents that you're at fault for. We have to file too many claims on your behalf. The other people who you get into a wreck with, we got to pay them out for injury, for hospital bills and all of this stuff. Hey, man, you are too much of a risk. You are uninsurable. We're going to have to drop your coverage. Mm-hmm. I think that we need to start employing the same thing when it comes to these dudes out here in these streets having these kids. Hey, look, man, and here's what I mean.
Okay.
I believe that there are too many people in the world, but men in particular, who don't deserve to be able to have kids. They don't deserve it. They're not manning enough. They're not on their square. They are misrepresenting men on a level that, in my opinion, is doing an injustice to men everywhere. So I think that an insurance adjuster needs to come around to these dudes and do some inventory on them. Hey, man, how many OnlyFans subscriptions you got? Oh, bro, you're uninsurable. No kids for you. How How many hours a week do you log on Pornhub and all of these other sites? Oh, you're uninsurable, bro. No kids for you. How often do you know, how many of these Instagram models do you follow on Instagram? You like how many of they pics? You leave how many comments? You slide into how many DMs? Oh no, bro, you're uninsurable, man. We can't cover you. You pay for what? You actually spend your money on OnlyFans instead of spending your money on actual women, taking an actual woman out on a date, paying for an actual woman's drink. You'd rather spend money on OnlyFans subscriptions than do that? Oh, bro, you're uninsurable. See, I think that's where we need to go. I think these guys need to be dropped from coverage. And if you're dropped from coverage, you have to pay a penalty if you're uninsured and you're still out here dropping these jits. Because what these guys are doing is they are continuing a legacy of ineptness. Because trust and believe, a lot of these dudes out here are having these kids, and they're going to pass on the same dysfunctional behavior and poor decision making to their own children, whether they're male or female. So like this is a never ending cycle of dysfunctionality that we got going on out here in society with these people who shouldn't be having kids because of their general approach to life. And I'm not a woman, so I'm not going to speak for women. I'll just speak for the men, because I think largely a lot of the responsibility for this is due to the choices that we as men make out here. I levy the responsibility of a lot of this at men, in my opinion. And I'm on record. I've said that many times on this channel, and I'll continue to say it. So I think that this stuff is funny, but I also think there's, in a roundabout way, a quasi application for it. A lot of you dudes out here is really making us look bad. You're really making us look bad. You're running around out here, wifing up, impregnating sex workers, strippers, women who make adult films. You're subscribed to OnlyFans pages. You spend, I don't know how many thousands of dollars a year, if not a month, on OnlyFans. Trust me, I've seen the receipts. I have a friend who's a bank teller at Bank of America. I'm not going to say her name, but she used to tell me how many of these dudes would come to the bank trying to claim fraud on their account. And she'll look up their account and they got one after another. OnlyFans charge, OnlyFans charge, OnlyFans charge. You guys out here are messing up and you're making us look bad. And you guys should be uninsured. You should have your balls dropped from all coverages so that you cannot procreate and continue these vicious cycles of ineptness when it comes to men out here. You're making us look bad. You really are. So I think that this thing has a weird application. I'm halfway joking, but I'm also halfway serious. And I think that people should look into it.
That's an interesting talking point, man. Didn't think about that. I would say, to speak on that. Well, I guess I would ask. So I guess if you're not covered, you can't have kids under this policy, right? Is that how it works?
You can, but it's punitive. Just like, okay, so like if you don't have if you don't have auto insurance, you can still drive. But if you get pulled over, if you get a ticket, if you get into an accident, it's highly punitive.
I got you.
Right? So, yeah, maybe your license gets suspended or revoked, or you got to go to jail or something like that. So yeah, you can still do it, but it's punitive.
That's rough, bro.
Well, that may be rough, but what we got going on out here in these streets is also rough.
And that I agree with. Hey, man, ain't no easy answer to a solution like that, man. Ain't no easy answer. It was something I was gonna say about this. Oh, and the flip side of this, on top of them making a joke out of this, there's probably some merit to it for real. In the event that, God forbid, he becomes paralyzed waist down. So it's obvious he ain't slanging meat no more. So how can we use this guy as a sexual symbol for fertility if he can't get it up? So they probably did need some type of package, insurance package. Relax, people. All right. They probably needed, pause, man. They probably needed some insurance package, all right, to make sure that in any event, where something happened, he goes to the Amazon jungle and, an anaconda come and rip it off. And then so, they want to make sure that they're covered as well, with whatever deal they gave him. So it's probably some true merit to that as well. You never know with these things, with all these new type of companies and all. But yeah, again, I still think it's grade A marketing. I've seen their stuff before. They've been quite aggressive. People seem to really be, I guess, using it enough for them to get the capital start flipping like this. So, shouts out to them, and shouts out because I think their whole premise is them having like more natural soaps with less chemicals or stuff like that, which I'm on board with, bro. Like I'm over fragrances. I'm over like all of that stuff. The ones that even ones that's for men, it's just like I don't need none of that, bro. Just give me non-fragrance, unscented things, bro. Like I'm over all of that rigmarole. So, and that's the way of the wave, I think, of the future. New people, our generation, Nick Cannon's generation. So, this is good marketing. This is all in all. I feel like for their brand and what they do, this is as much as a home run you can get. So we'll see what happens for this, but I'm pretty sure the numbers are going to do what they do. I think this is going to be a successful campaign.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think all y'all insurance companies need to look into that. Testicle coverage.
Oh man,
a lot of these dudes out here shouldn't be having these jits, man. Unfortunately, and it gives me no pleasure in saying that, but we have to end the cycle because either we improve or we figure something else out. And right now, it's looking like we need to figure something else out. So, I know it's tough, man. It's a tough pill to swallow, but hey. We have enough anecdotal evidence and complaining women out here letting us know how there is a dearth of quality men in the streets. So what are you going to do?
Hey, ladies, it's Dogon_SS. So I'll ain't no dearth over here, baby. Hey, make sure I hit the like and subscribe, man.
Yeah.
Every Tuesday with it, man.
Thanks, man. Shouts out to Nick Cannon too, friend of the channel.
You're
Okay, so now apparently there is some division amongst the ranks of Kendrick Perkins and what used to be one of LeBron's #1 fanboys out here in the media. Few people in the media used to ride harder for LeBron than Kendrick Perkins, but Kendrick Perkins also prides himself on trying to do his job honestly. And it looks like in lieu of doing his job honestly, he's made LeBron feel some type of way because LeBron unfollowed Kendrick Perkins on Twitter, and that made so many waves that they was talking about it on TV. They dedicated a segment of First Take to talking about the fact that LeBron unfollowed Kendrick Perkins on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. So, what was I gonna say? So yeah, this happened. This is more LeBron James passive aggressiveness, I would say. But yeah, they actually talked about it on TV. So another Lebanon topic here. So this says Kendrick Perkins fires shots at LeBron, calls him sensitive for unfollowing him. Every time a prominent NBA player follows or unfollows another prominent NBA player, the Twitter account NBA Alerts announces the change. Throughout a season, there are many good reasons why media people are active athletes, and active athletes might follow and unfollow one another, but occasionally an update sticks out. LeBron James reportedly made the decision to unfollow several users on X on Friday, including ESPN NBA analyst Kendrick Perkins, Ben Simmons, and Blake Griffin. On Monday, the First Take crew made the perplexing choice to discuss LeBron James unfollowing ESPN commentator Kendrick Perkins on social media for 12 minutes. On his podcast, Mind the Game, a few days prior to the NBA Finals, LeBron James gave Dallas Mavericks player Kyrie Irving kudos for reaching the championship round once more. James complimented him and said that although he was happy for him, James complimented him and said that although he was, so that's an incomplete sentence. In the 2016 NBA Finals, the two helped the Cleveland Cavaliers pull off an incredible comeback victory over the Golden State Warriors. Perkins called James out for purposefully interrupting the discourse, as Perkins understood the remark to be. LeBron apparently unfollowed Perk after this comment. Then on Monday, First Take invited Perkins to discuss being unfollowed despite the NBA Finals going on. So this is a brief snippet from that segment of them talking about LeBron unfollowing Kendrick Perkins.
Imagine unfollowing me on Twitter, but you still got to wake up and watch me on TV every day because I ain't going nowhere. That's number one. Number two, I think LeBron James got sensitive over the last couple weeks because I've been calling him out or have to speak on certain things that he may disagree with, like the firing of Darvin Ham or the coaching search for the Lakers, or even having to touch on the Bronny James situation when it comes down to dealing with the draft. At the end of the day, everyone on this television, including USA, because you and I over the last 3 years, and Molly, you can contest to this, we have been going back and forth, and name me somebody, probably other than Shannon, that has been coming on here lobbying and defending for LeBron James like I have been on the basketball side of things.
Totally true.
And a few times that I disagree with you, you get in your feelings, and you don't pick up the phone and hit me up or send me a text. And you know the disappointing part about it is that I get a call or text from Rich Paul. Bron, I've been knowing you since 1999, brother. We played AAU basketball together. We played against each other in AAU basketball. We played in the McDonald's All-American game together. We was in the same draft. Like, you have my phone number. Like, if you had a problem with anything I said, and we could have picked up the phone and had a conversation. But instead, you took to the pub. You knew the world was going to see it eventually that you unfollowed me because they have all these stalkers that have their stuff on the I don't know. Like, we're living in weird times. No, seriously. Ain't that crazy? That you can unfollow somebody and it sends an alert to somebody to let the world know that we're living in weird times at the moment.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are living in very weird times. So that was Kendrick Perkins' take on this. So just to back up real quick, originally on LeBron's podcast with JJ Redick, LeBron was talking about how he's happy that Kyrie's made it to the finals. And he's happy for him in this moment, but he's also mad because he's not playing with Kyrie anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And Kendrick Perkins was like, here's LeBron trying to, steal the spotlight to put some attention onto himself when the person we should be giving the flowers to is Kyrie Irving. That's what started the whole thing. And then I guess LeBron didn't appreciate that and he unfollowed Kendrick Perkins. And then there they go talking about it on First Take. So this is the latest saga in LeBron James passive aggressiveness 101. But I'll let you speak for yourself. What do you think about LeBron unfollowing Kendrick Perkins and just this whole situation in general?
Yeah, I think this was just the straw that broke the camel's back for LeBron. I think Kendrick does have a point. He's been definitely unmuting over the last couple months and speaking his mind a lot more. He doesn't sound like a LeBron talking piece anymore. So he started to sound like he's having his own opinion lately. And I think the other ones, LeBron clearly heard. It made its shockwaves through the media, whatever Kendrick said. And so this one, however, I think this was the one that got to LeBron because I'm pretty sure LeBron was like, look, he's not stopping this. He's going to keep doing this now. And I'm done with him now. Because, like, as he mentioned, the firing of Darvin Ham, super foul, bro. We called this during the season when they was putting Darvin Ham on a hot seat.
That's
and
right.
we called that he's going to get fired.
Yep. And
so sure enough, when it happened, Perk said something, and rightfully so, man. The whole way that went down was just fraudulent.
It's disgusting.
Yeah, bro. It shouldn't have went down like that. But they did it. So he said something about that. I guess that's very understandable. The Bronny stuff, when he was throwing the Bronny stuff on the thing every time, showing his combine performance when he has 3 points. And he's like, yo, we don't show anybody else like this. Why are we doing this? I'm I'm pretty sure LeBron's like, okay, bro, you need to calm down with all of this. Yeah. This one here, I agree with Perkins to a degree, but I feel like this was a stretch. And I felt like now he's just calling LeBron out for the sake of calling him out. Because, I agree, but this is a podcast show. What do you want him to say about Kyrie? Something negative? So, yes. Was that last year? Every year, actually, when LeBron loses in the playoffs. He'll try to steal thunder. I remember, so that was last year when the Nuggets won the finals, and they were he's out there throwing out narratives trying to take away from the Nuggets shine. And then the Nuggets coach called that out.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's obvious to people who are objective of LeBron's behavior. So this was a situation where he's mentioning Kyrie. So he is doing his little passive aggressive little weird thing so he can be in the news cycle type of stuff. He did that. And Perkins, instead of just playing this on a fence, just leans all the way into it like, he's doing it again. Because I don't think this is similar to what he was trying to do last year in the finals, but it might be. But I still feel like LeBron's like, look, he's going that far with this. He's going to do this on the next one and the next one or whatever. So our affiliation, our broship is over. And last thing I'll say before I let you go, I think Perkins, because I know a lot of these guys, because there's a lot of these basketball podcast dudes I listen to. Too Raw for Sports, Ticket TV, amongst other Angry Basketball Hoops. It's some dudes out there I listen to, and good dudes, solid. And they be talking about all of this stuff, and they're anti-narrative. So whenever ESPN is doing their narrative, here they come on YouTube to unravel it. And so they talk about it a lot that, people like Bomani Jones, people like what's that boy name? LeBron. What's that boy name? He be working with Nick Wright and them on Fox. The black dude.
Chris Broussard.
They said Broussard and them listening. Rob Parker. They say, I know y'all be listening. Y'all be stealing our talking points, and which is probably true. And one thing that I've been hearing about Perk lately is he's been taking a lot of these internet talking points where people are just against all of this media. And so what Perkins has been doing is like, hey, look, because they're looping him in with him being the part of the machine. And so Stephen A. Smith and Perkins have both gone mutiny. Stephen A. was always on the fence with it, you know what I'm saying? But he'll play into it. But now he's gone completely rogue. And now Perkins gone rogue because they're losing popular opinion with people that matter, our cohort.
Yeah.
The young kids, they're going to be under the brainwashing spell, but people that can actually think for themselves are actually looking at this and going, y'all are sellouts for LeBron? Like, what are y'all on payroll? So, so Perk has really unmuted and stepped out, and I'm proud of the man. The checks ain't worth it, man. Not for your dignity, bro, because people are going to look at you in history and call you a LeBron, glazer. And you don't want to be lumped in that category, man. You want to be seen as your own man with an objective opinion. So, well done, Perk. And I stand with Perk. But what are your thoughts, man, on this whole dynamic, man? LeBron unfollowing Perkins. Machines out there telling us that this is happening. Like, what's going on, man?
Like, you can say that what is LeBron supposed to say is, he's on his podcast and they asked him about Kyrie, but it is also his podcast. So he has carte blanche on what gets discussed and what gets asked and what gets talked about. And that still got brought up so that he can address that and make that point that he'd still like to be playing with Kyrie. My point is, I don't put anything past LeBron. I think LeBron is a calculated individual who doesn't get enough credit for how calculated he is. Mm-hmm. Unless you're actually an objective person in the media, to your point. You mentioned Chris Broussard. I would add Chris Broussard to the mutiny. I don't know if you've been watching that show on Fox lately, that First Things First. Mm-hmm. But Broussard be leaning into the Lakers, and in a quasi way, he kind of be on the anti-LeBron side of certain debates and topics, depending on what it is that they're talking about. Mm-hmm. So I would lump Broussard into that group as well, because Broussard was flagrantly pro LeBron when he
Mhm.
was on ESPN, to the point that it was just disgustingly nauseating. I couldn't
Mhm.
stand it. But he's definitely put his foot off the gas on that in recent years. Nick Wright is the one person who I would say arguably, like,
It's disgusting,
Kendrick
dude.
Perkins was like, I don't know, besides Shannon Sharpe, who has been more pro LeBron than me in the media. Nick Wright.
Nick Wright.
Nick Wright and Shannon Sharpe are the two most annoying, disgusting pro LeBron, lacking in objectivity people in the mainstream media today. It's ridiculous. It's almost to a point where, at least with Shannon Sharpe, Shannon Sharpe is so in the tank that he kind of makes fun of himself with it sometimes.
Correct.
Yeah, you know, so I can halfway tolerate Shannon Sharpe because he's making fun of himself when he's doing it.
Right.
But Nick Wright believes this stuff, and
Right.
he will
That's
not.
disgusting.
You cannot smoke him out of his hole.
No.
He is serious. If you disagree with him on his LeBron takes, you're an idiot. And that's the kind of, I just can't stand it. So like whenever they talk about LeBron on that show, I just turn it or mute it until they go to another topic, because he's just, it's too much. I can't stand it. So I mean, LeBron will forever have his minions in the media who do his bidding. And it's such a large amount of them that any dissension is viewed as the enemy. It's a similar dynamic to when we talked about Sha'Carri Richardson, and Sha'Carri Richardson got mad and started talking about how the media is against certain athletes who voice themselves. And it's like, hey, look, girl, ain't nobody against you. You just be doing dumb shit. And so people gonna talk about that. Ain't nobody against you. Like, stop thinking that the world is against you because you have one or two people in the world who aren't reinforcing your echo chambers. And LeBron is in the biggest echo chamber ever created in the history of mankind. Ever. So I'm over it. It's nice to see a lot of other people are over it. His passive aggressiveness has got to go. He has got to go. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. I will be happy when he retires. Because even though it's still going to happen when he retires, it'll be less noisy, because he ain't an active player no more. So we at that point will no longer have to deal with this championship stuff and what the organization and the teams need to do so that they can put the roster right, so that they can compete, because LeBron and expectations and they want to win champ, blah, 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 blah. And all of this crap that they keep talking about year after year after year. I'm so tired of it. So just go away and retire, LeBron. It's over. Everybody already thinks you're top 2, top 5, whatever. You got your rings. You scored the most points. Just go away. Go away.
Nah.
For real, man. I'm sick of this dude. But here's one thing I will say about LeBron. I will gain respect for LeBron when it comes to this Kendrick Perkins dynamic if he actually on his podcast does the one thing that he never does and addresses the situation in person. If him and JJ Redick get on that podcast and LeBron actually addresses unfollowing Kendrick Perkins and talks about it, and actually, puts, as Kendrick Perkins likes to say, puts what does he say? Addressing it like the numbers on the house. Like if LeBron actually addresses the situation in person, like the numbers on the house, I'm gonna be like, oh, for once this guy isn't doing something passive aggressively. He's actually acknowledging this thing and addressing it in person on his own platform. If he does that, I'll be like, good for you, LeBron. But I suspect he won't. He'll just do the thing that he always does, which is just quietly do something that he knows people are going to talk about. But then when people ask him about it, he's going to act like, oh, I don't care. I don't even know what y'all talking about. I didn't even unfollow him. That must have been some algorithm thing. That's what he does. He'll just act like he had nothing to do with anything because that's what he does. It's so aggravating. So if he were to actually address this, I would actually respect him for that. But I suspect he won't, and he'll just sweep it under the rug, and it'll just be another one of these passive-aggressive things that he does because that's just how he prefers to handle things.
Yeah, we'll see, man. And shout out to Perk for reclaiming his manhood. Yeah, man, standing on business, bro, because like I was saying, man, in the streets, bro, he was getting dragged by objective people, and they was dragging him on some stuff like, hey, man, where your Nick Cannons at, bro? because you looking, yeah, bro, you looking like, you know what I'm saying? You sold them off. And so it looks like he's reclaiming that right now. I'm proud of him for doing that and doing it like this on air, and letting his takes be known that he's not standing for this garbage anymore, man. Like the placating that the Lakers organization is doing to satisfy this man, the placating that NBA does, and it reaches itself all the way to ESPN and Fox Sports. Like people are really like listening to him and bending the knee to whatever he says, because they have in their brains that if they're not on his team, they're not going to get ratings. And so they're into this thing of Lakers, LeBron, Cowboys. And so, what's LeBron doing? What's LeBron doing? And yeah, bro, it is reached to the point where it is nauseating. I mean, it was like that 10 years ago, if you ask me. But now it's really reached its zenith. And last thing I'll say is, yeah, I'm ready for him to retire too. But word on the street, he's going to sound like another 2-year deal.
Yeah, I know.
And if he's got his legs up under him, podcasting, minding the game, bro. Please, bro. These little Rudy Poop players they drawing up on the little dry erase board. And that's supposed to make JJ Redick, Pat Riley.
Yes.
Them little players they doing. This is a down screen. Now on a down screen, see now you're gonna come around, and it's like, oh, that's deep. And then you go in the comment section, oh man, they're breaking down the X's and O's. And it's like, man, like, where are these bots commenting? Like, what are we watching? What are we witnessing? So yeah, man, the next Pat Riley, JJ Redick, you know what I'm saying? Who knows, man? Lakers coach to be, we'll see, man. But this whole fiasco and concert, a lot of parts of it I laugh, because what else I'm gonna do? So I laugh at a lot of this, but yes, man, it is getting to the point where it's like, come on, bro, give everybody a break. But he's got to be in a cycle, bro.
He's got to be. He's got to be.
And we're going to be here, all right, to neutralize it. So whenever there's something, well, y'all are talking about it. Trust me, sir. Our job here is to neutralize this. So, and put some proper discord out there so people can, yay, I ain't the only person that can see this guy for the clown he is. Exactly. So, yeah, we're out here providing an ointment. So, yeah, man.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah, I can't wait. I mean, yeah, he'll have his legs under him and he'll continue to be a steady presence because of his podcast. But at least I won't have to deal with the annoying basketball stuff anymore. Like the annoying basketball narratives will at least go away because he can't be he can't possibly contend for championships if he's retired. If they figure out a way to make him a championship contender in retirement, then at that point I give up. I'm gonna just stop watching sports altogether if they figure out how to make that happen.
I would ban the NBA. I would ban them.
Hey man, countdown to the retirement, LeBron, right here.
Hey, shout out to Kendrick Perkins though.
Yeah. Here we go. Now, Stephen A. Smith. He has his own show on YouTube, the Stephen A. Smith Show on his YouTube channel, where he does his thing, right? And recently he talked about how he is continuing to abstain from any support of Will Smith until Will Smith appropriately addresses the Chris Rock situation specifically to the Black community. Stephen A. Smith feels as though Will Smith has not adequately addressed that incident, which at this point took place over 2 years ago, to Black people. So that's his spin on this, is that Will Smith needs to address this with Black people. He's addressed it already. He's already gone through his public embarrassment. He did that weirdo thing on this podcast where he took fan questions about it and all of that weird stuff that he was doing. So he's already done that kind of thing, but he needs to address it with Black people, according to Stephen A. Smith. So go figure. But that's Stephen A. Smith's angle here with this. So this article says Will Smith still needs to explain Chris Rock's slap to black community, Stephen A. Smith says. Will Smith still owes the black community an explanation for the infamous Chris Rock slap at the 2022 Academy Awards ceremony, according to Stephen A. Smith. On Sunday, which was June 9th, the famed sports commentator shared his thoughts on the incident via his YouTube channel amid news of Bad Boys Ride or Die attaining blockbuster status at the box office over the weekend. While he has supported the Philadelphia native since the ordeal 2 years back, he wants to see him, quote, sit down and talk to the black community about the moment he feels Rock will never get over that ever and is damaged because of it. We know you wouldn't have smacked Ricky Gervais, Bill Maher, Bill Burr, or a host of others, Smith said. We know you wouldn't have done that. No apology is necessary. I'm just saying a lot of folks ain't get over that. A lot of folks find it hard to just go to the movies to watch you. I'm one of those people. Upon the internet discussing his comments, Stephen doubled down on what he said in a post shared on X. Yep, I said it, he wrote, but I have some additional thoughts thinking about all that Will and Martin have done for us all, especially after talking to my man Charlie Mack. I've got more to say on the Stephen A. Smith Show /podcast tomorrow. So let's go ahead and end this. And here is what Stephen A. Smith said, or at least here's a piece of it. Not going to play the whole thing. But here's a piece of what Stephen A. Smith said, talking about how Will Smith needs to address this with black people.
Oh, my goodness.
He has to sit down and talk to the black community. You can see all the white people around Will Smith all you want to.
What?
Black folks have loved and revered this man for decades. He was the closest thing to perfection, as his friend Charlie Mack once told me, for decades. Everybody makes a mistake. This is not hatred. I love Will Smith still. But you got to have a conversation as to why you did that. And when you're apologizing, and when you're getting emotional, and when you're thinking about all the lives or the people that you've affected, it's primarily us as black people who have loved and supported you and watched you go on an international stage and slap one of us in the face and tarnished an historic event for one of the great black producers of modern times in Will Packer, possibly costing yourself and Antoine Fuqua an Oscar for emancipation along the way. I'm not going to say what you did to the comedic community. Hell, Jim Carrey spoke about that along with various others. We know you wouldn't have smacked Ricky Gervais, Bill Maher, Bill Burr, or a host of others. We know you wouldn't have done that. No apology necessary.
What are you
I'm just saying,
bro?
a lot of folks ain't get over that. A lot of folks find it hard to just go to the movies to watch you. I'm one of those people. And I never missed a Will Smith movie. Hitch, Concussion, all the Bad Boys movie from the first one to y'all with Gabrielle Union, who, by the way, should have been in 3 and 4, by the way.
Bro, what?
Along with a host of other things. I Am Legend, Independence Day, Men in Black, 1, 2, and 3. Will Smith, you're phenomenal. Phenomenal talent, phenomenal actor, phenomenal individual. You lost your way one night. We need to hear that from you. I'm sorry. That's what I need to do before I look forward to seeing your movies again, more than seeing a sit down.
All right.
Oh man, you gotta love this guy.
Boy, yeah. He's like a gift and a curse, man. All right. Well, there you have it. That's how he feels
Jeez.
about this. He feels like
Whoa.
this still needs to be brought up and it still needs to be addressed because he smacked a black person. Um, what do you make of what he had to say?
I mean, I really don't know. And most of it was shocking because when I heard about this story, I was like, "Oh, is this like somebody pulled this up from like when it happened, or like what's going on here?" And it's like, "Nah, this is new. He's just not dropping this. He's expressing disappointment in Will Smith because well, he thinks that the black community needs an explanation." Now, I don't know. I've heard a lot of race baited Stephen A talking points before, but I don't think I ever remember him saying that somebody has to explain themselves to the black community or apologize to the black community or anything like that, as if he's like really speaking for it. I don't know where he conducted this poll from. I don't know where he gathered his data for him to say that black people still care about this. Will we talk about it? Yeah, it's an iconic moment in history, but we all laugh it off. We thought it was a bit silly, but we've seen enough red table talks to really know what Will Smith's going through in his home.
Yes.
So at this point, we just wrote him off as the weirdo that he just so happened to be. But nowhere in there did anybody ask or demand for an apology on that. And so for him to speak for or to act as if he's speaking for the black community is laughable. There's things that's on Stephen A. Smith's resume that he has done to black people that he has not explained himself to. And he hasn't apologized to the black community for. And there's been some black men out there that had a mistake of a moment and he just railed into them and just banished them to Hades. And with no remorse. And some of those people are still buried to this day. He tried his damnedest to end Kwame Brown's life. Every year, whenever there's something going on with somebody's contract, when they're coming up for contract extensions, negotiations, and stuff like that, he always gets to talking about people's characters and stuff like that, which ultimately has something to do with their market value. He has a career of doing these shady, suspect things to black people. So for him to sit there and say that he's speaking on behalf of black people for Will Smith to apologize for this whole thing or give us an explanation, I don't think Stephen A. Smith is in the position to be speaking for us. Because again, there's quite a number of things that I would like an explanation from him on. So this is, to me, is just hella ironic. It's completely out of left field. It's completely out of touch, if you ask me. I don't know why he would have to say this. If he wanted to give some type of cross promotion to Will Smith, this ain't the way to do it. So I think that he should have found something else to talk about that night or found another way to talk about this. But Stephen A. Smith does not speak for me. So, yeah, I think this is completely out of touch. But what are your thoughts on Stephen A. Smith weighing in, demanding Will Smith explain himself for his slapping of Chris Rock?
I think that Stephen A. Smith is taking advantage of the fact that Will Smith has a movie coming out for content for his channel. That's what I think. Because he wouldn't even be suggesting that this is something that needs to take place if it weren't for the fact that the Bad Boys movie is coming out.
Correct.
So if this was something that was really striking a chord with you, it would have been something that was an ongoing theme on your own platforms for the last couple of years.
Correct.
But it wasn't. It's only a thing now because there's a movie coming out that people are going to see that Smith himself stands to benefit from. Rightfully so. He put the work in. He deserves to be able to benefit from that. That's how this thing works. So what this looks like to me is Stephen A. Smith is taking advantage of Will Smith's opportunity for gains in order to bring attention to his channel and his platform. Now, that is the way the content game works. You sort of siphon content from another source in order to bring attention to your own platform. So, in and of itself, I'm not entirely turned off by that reality. But to parlay it into a referendum on blackness and how he needs to be able to speak to the black community on what happened there, that's the part of it that kind of seems a bit seedy, in my opinion. Again, I wouldn't care as much if this was something that he had been lending his voice to for the last couple of years, because he feels as though it's important that it happens. But it's only important that it happens now because this movie's coming out. If the movie wasn't coming out, we wouldn't be talking about this. And to parlay it into a racial conversation because he does not believe that Will Smith would have smacked a white comedian, I feel like that's low-hanging fruit, because a white comedian wouldn't have done that, wouldn't have made that kind of a joke anyway. Like, none of those people would have done that because that's not their comedic styles. Like, the closest one maybe is Bill Burr, but Bill Burr don't talk about that kind of stuff. He talks about like women basketball players and all of that, and women who complain about stuff. So I kind of feel like that's low-hanging fruit, because a lot of those comedians, that's not their comedic style. But it's easy for you to conveniently make that assertion because you are citing white comedians in and of itself. So I just kind of feel like this was a ploy to position himself as like an authority figure in terms of speaking on behalf of black people, which, like you, I kind of feel like maybe you're not the person for that job, even though I think in his mind he thinks he is. But I also think that it's just his way of trying to use the Bad Boys movie as an opportunity to have content that he can just talk about on his channel. And it just so happens to be this thing, which is kind of fizzled out. Ain't nobody really talking about this no more. So I don't know how much it's going to help the algorithm serve up that video on his channel, because no one's really talking about this anymore, because everyone, black people included, sees this as like an isolated type thing that overall is not a referendum on black people or families or any of the other themes that certain people tried to make this out to be. This was one rich dude with mental problems slapping another rich dude in public. It was embarrassing, but it wasn't a referendum on family values, or blackness.
Correct.
That is perhaps a referendum on how to best conduct your personal marriage and your personal relationship. Perhaps you can go that far, but that isn't like this that event didn't serve as a come to Jesus moment for us to reflect on how we're raising our families and how the black community looks at itself. Like, it was not that deep. No one looks at it that way. This was two rich people getting into it in public, and it was embarrassing. And so to try and parlay it into like a conversation about how you need to address the black community, black people ain't looking at it like that. They're not. Like, no one thinks that was an embarrassing moment for black people. No one thinks that. No black person thinks that. But I mean, I just think that I think Stephen A. Smith viewed this as opportunistic. And he's articulate enough to go on his spiel and make it seem like it's something that he feels passionately about. But again, if it really was, he would have been talking about this for the last 2 years, not just because he has a movie coming out.
Yeah, 100%. And there was also some part in there, it wasn't in this clip, but he was also talking about, I guess it was like pre-sales or something like that. And it wasn't matching projections for the show, basically saying that the pre-sales or the whatever, it wasn't equating. And so Stephen A. used that as his leverage for talking points to say that people are turned off by Will Smith himself.
Yeah.
And so, which was a hell of a reach. But now that the weekend is over and the numbers are in, right? Yeah. So it did 104 million globally. It did 50 something million domestically. So it did what it needed to do.
Yeah. And you have to adjust that for the current economy too, because people don't go to the movies period like that no more. So It ain't 5-10 years ago when that would have been seen as like underperforming. people don't go to movies no more.
Correct.
So the numbers are just different now than the way that they used to be.
Yeah. So those numbers don't look like it bombed. So, and I've been seeing nothing but positive stuff on social media from Black people that went out and saw it. So again, he's completely using it. This is my thing. If he's going to sit here and just be a shock jock and just say things for the shock value, Stephen A is rapidly, in my opinion, he's rapidly losing credibility. And because, his narrative is out there now. And this plays right into his narrative of talking about narratives. So he was trying to put a whole narrative out there that Will Smith fell off in the Black community because of the Chris Rock fiasco. And he's putting that out there to non-Black people. It's only 12.8% of us in the country anyway. So he's talking to the others, 78%, 82% or whatever of people out there that's not us, that aren't tapped in. And so now, you know what I'm saying, Joe, an accountant, is like, man, those Negroes really need to get it together with, they're still upset about Will Smith, I slap a Negro, and I'm just joking, but seriously. So yeah, man, he's trying to appease other people. Clearly, I don't know who he's talking to, but he ain't talking to me. So yeah, Stephen A, nice try. We're gonna call you out here on the conscious approach, bro. I'm you know what I'm saying, I'm watching you, bro. So and again, man, I'm here to neutralize. So if he's got a good point, I'll bag him up. But when he's out here offering his shit sandwiches where he's giving a compliment just to go in on you and then give you a compliment on the back end, which he did here to Will Smith, which he does to all athletes, I'm over it. You know what I'm saying? First of all, let me go ahead and start by saying that Will Smith is one of the most accomplished actors in the game.
He always has to give it. He always gives his disclaimer. He always he always does that. He always has to give his disclaimer.
Yeah, and then so he'll give you that first layer of bread, and it's like, all right, cool. But then here comes the shit. You know what I'm saying? Where he says, "I was absolutely disgusted with your behavior, though, and everybody else in the Black community was, and I think you owe us all an apology or an explanation. But mind you, this is one of the best in the game." Yeah, man. Yeah, the all of the movies. All right. Hitch. So I start naming all that stuff. So I'll be watching from afar. But let's stop, man. So he does that with everybody. So I'm tired of his formula. Be authentic, Stephen A. Because I'm coming for you, man. Real talk, man.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. There's people, Black people included, who feel some type of way about Will Smith, and now they're on this, I'm not going to watch his movies because I don't like the way blah, blah, blah. But trust me, the vast majority, if not all of those people felt like that before that happened.
Correct.
Like the vast majority of those people already felt like that about him. They already felt like he was off, weird, whatever adjective you want to use, the red table stuff, the Jada Pinkett stuff with the Tupac stuff, like the song, the August Alsina stuff, the stuff with their kids. So the people who feel like that about him felt like that before that situation. They weren't suddenly swayed because of the Oscar slap. Now they're on this whole righteous indignation tip over Will Smith. Like it's not really that deep. You just get these people who are in the content business, and they truly do treat it like a business, and they're going to take these little nuggets and parlay it into content for their channel. That's really how I look at this, honestly. I don't know Stephen A. Smith. In my opinion, I personally feel as though he's not as offended by that as he says he is.
Of course not.
But he's going to do that because he has to be this authority figure in the media game, because I guess that's the position that he believes that he holds. So he's going to say this stuff, and maybe he'll stand on business and be consistent enough to not go see the movie, especially because in this day and age, there are going to be some no life having people who are going to see him at the movies, and then they'll put it out there, and now he has to account for that and talk about it, right? So that can happen too. So he's probably smart enough to know that he can calculate himself in such a way and maybe he'll just have to wait until the movie gets on Netflix to watch it because he can't risk going to the movies to see it because then people will call him out for being a hypocrite. But I don't know that he truly is as offended as he is laying into with this. I just think that it's something that's convenient for him to use for content. People who didn't like Will Smith didn't like him before that situation,
Right, like me.
and the people who did like him before that, they continue to be somebody who's like, okay, I'll still go watch the movie. I don't give a damn. So I just don't like that whole let's make this another referendum on blackness and the black community and how we need to talk about this as black people. Like, there's so many other things that we can do this for other than this rich guy who just went and slapped another rich guy and embarrassed himself. Like, that's all that was.
Facts.
Try again, Stephen A.
Yeah, next time, man. Next time.
Bro, we ain't with you on that.
Yeah, hey, bro, it's the conscious approach, bro. All right, let's say Stephen A's corner or whatever you talking about, bro. You gotta come harder than that.
And last but not least, we are going to talk about comments made by Malcolm Jamal Warner in terms of he's sort of shied away from listening to hip hop music and rap because of what he feels is the overuse of the N-word and then the word bitches. He kind of feels like these rappers just overuse it. And one of the rappers that he used to cite this for himself is J. Cole. He said he felt like he stopped listening to J. Cole because he just couldn't take how much J. Cole uses those words in his music, and he feels like it's this intentional ploy where it's like every other word, every other line, every other bar, J. Cole's using the word. And so Malcolm Jamal Warner's like, man, I can't even really listen to this stuff no more. So these are interesting comments, obviously, which is why we broached them here on the channel. So I'll let you hear for yourself this small snippet here of what Malcolm Jamal Warner said about those two words in particular and how they have sort of disenfranchised him from the music that he used to love.
There should be a moratorium on both of those words in hip hop because it's low-lying fruit. It's so easy. Everybody does it to the point that it's corny. Like there are MCs who I love who I cannot listen to anymore because I love J. Cole. But I had to stop listening to J. Cole because I got tired of hearing nigga and bitch as much every 2 sentences because he's proven himself to be such a incredible lyricist.
And you think it's just too low-hanging fruit for him to use those words.
I feel like
all right, so that's what he had to say there.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so that's from Not All Hood. And that was a TikTok video. So I kind of feel similar to him in that regard. But what do you think about what he had to say there? About this whole situation?
Yeah, for sure, man. I agree, dude. Not All Hood. That's the name of his podcast. That's his podcast, man. So he's
that's his podcast.
Yeah, he's kicking it off. He's trying to put his voice out there. And if he talking like that, I'll be watching more, man. I appreciate that take. Not too many people gonna be bold enough to say that, especially in this world where you talk about where everybody's trying to be friendly with everybody and trying to be cool with everybody. You can't give a critical take like that on somebody like J. Cole like that. But I definitely agree that because I've said that here. Because I used to listen to J. Cole stuff a lot, but then he got into this pattern, in my opinion, of this, always saying the N-word all the time. And to me, it gets to the point where it was getting annoying because it's like, because when you're rapping, dude, and you're using the N-word, all the time, it sounds like a crutch. If you are making music, now this is me personally. So me personally, I wanted to make music to uplift our community. I was gonna make bangers. I was gonna make stuff you can dance to in a club. But my criteria was no N-words unless I need to drop it. or and no B words unless I needed to drop it, but it's not towards a woman. So I wasn't gonna call women B's or O's. I wasn't gonna do that. And because in order to rap that way, you need to be more creative. And it doesn't require much, just wrap around that. But when you're in this default mode, you kind of freestyle. And if you freestyle and always drop that in as a filler word, then you just kind of just filler it out. So it's kind of like if you went to, you bought a supplement and it's supposed to be, 100%, whatever powder in there, let's say it's ginger and something else. And then, you look on the ingredients, however, and you'll see this whatever compound in there that's just basically filler. So it's like, well, why am I taking all this other stuff? Why are y'all putting filler in my supplements? And so the N word kind of acts as a filler if used too much. And J. Cole, in my opinion, used it quite a bit. And yeah, it's pretty much every other sentence. And so that turned me off. It felt lazy from somebody that I respected heavily. Somebody that I felt like could outright me at the time, which I felt was impossible. All right. So I was like, hey, man, this guy might give me a run for my money. But when he started rapping like that, I said, hey, he gave that up. Because I know how hard it is to write the initial stuff that he does. And I felt like lately he took his foot off the gas. So, yeah, I agree with Malcolm Jamal Warner. I feel like we need to get rid of those words, or use them less, articulate ourselves more, because especially from our real MCs, we expect more from those guys, I would say. But what are your thoughts, man? How do you feel about those words being used in everyday hip hop vernacular? You feel like it should go? And what are your thoughts on J. Cole on this matter?
Yeah, I'm with Malcolm Jamal Warner. It's culture though. Here's the thing with me. Now I'm gonna personalize it real quick.
Mm-hmm.
So when we was growing up doing this madness,
mm-hmm.
I used to use the N word pretty often. Because it was my cultural signifier. The world was telling me the world was telling me that in order for me to participate in my culture, I need to use this word. And if I'm not using this word, then I am not adequately being a part of my culture. And I think that all humans intrinsically desire to be a part of and participate in a culture that they feel they belong to. So because I felt that same yearning, I was using the word all the time because the world around me was dictating to me that it is a part of my culture to use this word, which was heavily reinforced through the music. Let's not kid ourselves. So I used to use the word a lot, but I knew in the back of my mind that there was something that wasn't all the way right about it. Now, to be honest, I used to kick the other word around here and there, but I never really felt all the way comfortable using that word. I just never really used it. I would use it, but like you said, when it came to your music, I would use it as a context to just kind of be incendiary, but I wasn't using it to refer to women specifically. So I would use it in certain contexts, that this bitch ass thing or this product, some I was referring to an inanimate, to an object or a thing that I don't like, but I wasn't directly calling women it because there was just a part of me that just didn't feel right doing it. Like I went through my phase where I did it, but eventually I grew out of it pretty quick. I would say by the time I was in my, I don't know, 20s, mid 20s, I wasn't, and anybody can vouch for this. Anybody who knows me, you can ask anybody. I've never really used that word that often to refer to women. Nobody will tell you that they heard me doing that a lot. N-word, completely different story. I was using that word up until I was maybe 30, early 30s, because I felt like I was supposed to. I felt like it was my obligation. Like literally, I felt as though it was my responsibility to use that word because as someone who wants to be a part of my culture, if my culture is dictating that in order to be a part of it, I need to use that word. Well, here I am using the word, even though I knew it wasn't all the way right. So at a certain point, though, I grew out of it because it just became too much for me. And I've said on this channel, I work to eliminate the word from my own personal vocabulary because the use of it has just become way too confusing and convoluted. I don't understand it. And I don't, this is just my opinion. I do not understand how somebody like J. Cole can use the word as much as he uses it, knowing that a sizable percentage of his fan base are not black people, and then turn around and get upset if those same non-black people use the word back. I don't understand. To me, that's confusing. To me, it's confusing. And I don't know how you can explain how that doesn't. I don't know how somebody can explain how that makes sense to me. So that's been my position this whole time. Like, y'all have basically commodified this word and turned it into a product and sold it to the world. So when the world wants to use the product because they're buying it with their money, they're buying it with their streams, they're buying it with, you know, the bandwidth that they allow it to occupy on their Spotify's or their Apple Musics or whatever. They're playing it in their cars, like they're spending actual money. These people are going to Coachella to see J. Cole. Like they go to South by Southwest to see J. Cole.
Yeah,
they paying the money to go to this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The word is flying around all over the place. So my thing is, we know this. It's not just black people endorsing this stuff. It's not just black people paying for it. The record labels who greenlight this stuff are led by people at the executive level who are probably mostly not black. So how do we understand and know this stuff, yet we still want to police people using it and get mad and outraged because a person who's not black uses the word? I don't understand it. It does not, that to me does not make sense. And I like things that I feel comfortable when things make sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
That does not make sense. It doesn't. So I looked around and I was like, okay, I see how this is going. It doesn't make sense. It's cringe. The word to me has become cringe. I don't even like hearing it anymore. I don't use it anymore. I really don't like hearing it in the music anymore. Like, to me, overall, it's just cringe. It sounds like these rappers are just throwing a bunch of ingredients into a blender and they're hitting the smoothie button and they're just blending the words all in there because they feel that that's the formula that they need to drink a good rap smoothie.
Correct.
That's what this sounds like now.
Yeah.
It sounds like a positive joke.
Yeah.
So my thing is, it no longer sounds authentic. There's confusion around it because we put the word all over the place. You know what I'm saying? But then we want to get mad when certain people use it. I just took myself out of this. I said, you know what? I'm not using the word anymore. I'm not saying it. And that's not me trying to get on my high horse to tell other people to stop using it or to tell these rappers that they need to stop using it. That's just me personally saying I'm removing myself from this situation because I feel as though if I continue to use the word, I'm going to continue to contribute to this confusion. And that'll be my individual way of contributing to this madness.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't like it either. More of these rappers do need to be more creative, but you know what it takes to make music where you're not utilizing a formula? It takes talent,
right,
and ability. And most of these individuals do not have said talent or ability. And it's disappointing that J. Cole, who allegedly does have said talent and ability, still uses the same formula. He still goes to the same grocery aisle, buys the same GMO products, throws them in his blender, hits the smoothie button, and out comes the N words and the B words in every other song. It's ridiculous. But I'm with Warner. I don't like it. I made a personal decision to stop using that word a long time ago, and I'm all the better for it. So I hear him all the way. I get what he's saying.
Yeah, man. And the last thing I'll say is that, J. Cole confuses me. Just the artist, like, I don't know what they expect from this. I don't know what's going on, because he'll do this whole holistic thing where he's walking around looking like Moses. You'd think he was about to part the Red Sea, how he's walking down subway aisles and stuff. So I'm like, okay, this guy really about that life. But then he'll make a song like Grippy, where he's sitting there, making a song about how tight a girl's box is and how he putting his girl's phone in, and her name was Grippy. And it's like, I don't know what his marital status. I'm pretty sure he's still out here on the market or whatever.
No, he's married. He's married.
Yeah, so that's what I don't understand what the grippy song is. I don't understand when he's talking about bees in his song. Still to this day, like, I get it that you're a rapper, so you gotta say these things, but you're supposed to be above being a rapper. So he does these things that disappoint me, where, and I'm pretty sure this is where Jamal Warner's coming from, where you're expecting certain levels of taking it to the next notch as a lyricist, but you're reverting to all of these gimmicky things. And so if I look at you like you got Kobe talent, then put in the Kobe work ethic to be at your best. But you clearly have the talent to do this, but you're doing dribble, step back, modern ugly stuff. Yep. And it's like, where's that go get him that I thought that was there? You're disappointing me. So if there's anybody that owes the Black community apology, it's not Will Smith. Okay, it's J. Cole for misleading me, man. I really thought this guy was going to lead us through the desert for 40 days and 40 nights. You know what I'm saying? But he's really on some other stuff, man. So we'll see what's happening with all of this. I'm still supporting J. Cole from afar. I would like to see him clean this up. But I agree with Malcolm Jamal Warner, man. And shouts out to him and his podcast. Nice name, too. Not all hood. Nah. So, we're not all hood. They go together, all of it. Yeah. So, nice little name. And I'm glad to hear that he's unmuting. So, somebody from the community that's been in the industry, done worked around these people, but was a solid dude, because you never really hear anything about him. He ain't Eddie Winslow in it right now. He ain't on that page, bro. He's not on that. You know what I'm saying? And I would say shout out to Eddie, but I don't know what that's gonna mean, bro.
Nah. Eddie need to get insured on the Nick Cannon plan.
Yeah, we need to shut him down. We don't need no more of that.
Yeah.
He's not insured.
Eddie need that insurance. We need to determine Eddie Winslow's insurability right now, because it ain't looking good for him. It ain't looking good.
Lord have mercy.
But yeah, no, I feel you, man. J. Cole should be somebody who is above the fray and doesn't care about conformity. I mean, you're apologizing for making diss tracks aimed at Kendrick when all you were doing was being competitive, because in your soul you feel like that's not the type of person you want to be. So like all of that stuff should work hand in hand. I don't see how people cherry pick their righteousness. Like that to me is just weird. But he is very much subject to conformity. J. Cole is subject to rap conformity. And I used to say that Wale was the biggest identity crisis rapper that I'd ever listened to, because you get introspective Wale, but then you get MMG Wale, and sometimes I didn't know which one. It's like, okay, is this MMG Wale or is this Falarin? Like, which guy am I talking to right now? But I think J. Cole takes the cake. I think J. Cole is more of this thing of like, do I do this or am I above the fray? And sometimes it kind of seems like it's whatever side of the bed he wakes up on that determines which one of those individuals he is. I wonder if he's a Gemini.
And his collab with Drake is what sent me over. Yeah. Because before all this stuff, I was like, bro, why are you teaming up with him? And then it's all this stuff revisited of, I don't know what's going on with this guy. So yeah, man, good point. I forgot about Wale and his confused mindset. He was conflicted.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. But I think Wale has come to terms with who he is, because the last few things that he's done, he's been this the whole time. He's kind of distanced himself. I guess he letting Ross and Meek Mill, drown in that madness over there. He's kind of taking a step back somewhat. I don't think that they still are friendly with one another, because Wale will still pop up on their songs, but I think that it's not the same as it was back in the late 2000s when that whole MMG thing was starting off. So, but yeah, man, I mean, I just kind of feel like I'm with Warner. I am. And it's become cringe. It is like, it's cringe to me. I don't see how people still use it the way they using it, but clearly they still using it like that. I don't understand it. The invocation of the word to me has become very convoluted. And I just don't understand how people can make sense of this. Like, make that make sense. You know, Doja Cat's fan base is 17, 18, 19-year-old white girls. She puts the N-word in all her music, and then she goes to a concert and tells white people not to say the N-word. Make that make sense.
Right.
I don't know how that makes sense. How does that make sense? And like, I know though, like Doja Cat has a lot of fans that cross the racial and ethnic spectrum. I get that. But let's be clear here. A sizable percentage of her fan base are the very same people whom she told to not say the lyrics in her own music. So that's my thing. These people, I've given up trying to understand them. You know, I've given up asking them to help to be accountable. I've just given up. So what I decided to do was I'm gonna live in my bubble. I'm gonna listen to the few people who I like listening to, and I'm gonna just call it a day, because the rest of this madness, I can't make any sense of it.
Agreed. Oh snap! Hey, you just hit a snag with the glitchies, but you know, it's kind of like the mic popping a little bit.
Can you still hear it?
Yeah, it's probably like a cord, like unplug, plug back in type deal. But yeah, man, 100%, dude. So we'll see how this pans out. We'll see how it plays out with you know, Jamal Warner and J. Cole's legacy, man. Because that diss track, the apology, the grippy song, he is having a bad 2024, dude. But I think this is due to the fact that he wasn't standing on business for a little bit, and it's starting to show itself a little bit. So hopefully he's staying on business, man. Stop trying to go with trends and try to, you know, chase a dollar, because I felt like that's what he's been up to lately. So hopefully he tightens up. Hey, get an audio check now, man. How's it going?
We good.
Oh man, we solid, dog.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I'm with it, man. I hope he, you know, I don't know, man. It is what it is. I'm removed from this music stuff anyway, so whatever he figures out, good for him, I guess. I just think it's all just become entirely too confusing for me, and I like it when stuff makes sense. But yeah, shouts out to Malcolm Jamal Warner. Not all hood. I like that. I'm gonna be checking it out, man. I'm gonna be listening to it as well. I'm gonna be paying attention. So, shouts out to Malcolm Jamal Warner, man. But on that note, good stuff, good stream tonight. We're gonna go ahead and close things out. Conscious Approach on YouTube as well as various other outlets. You know, anywhere where you get your podcast and all of that good stuff. We also stream live on Instagram as well. Check me out on Instagram at JVWins, JVWINS, and also check out Conscious Approach on Instagram at ConApproach, CONAPPROACH. Shouts out to everybody who's joining us along for the ride, man. Keep hitting that subscribe button, keep hitting that like button, keep leaving them comments. We certainly appreciate it, and putting good vibes in the air for the Dallas Mavericks ahead of Game 3 tomorrow night, man. Like, just make it a series, guys. Come on, boys.
I know. Hey, what up, y'all? The name's Dogon SS. And you can find me on Instagram at Dogon_SS, on YouTube and on TikTok. Dogon_SS over there as well. And I'm also posting videos, guys. Look out. Make sure you guys subscribe over there. And as I say on every part, guys, don't be too high, don't be too low. Keep it calm, keep it chill, keep it clear. And don't let anybody get you off your pivot. All right. So until the next time, guys, we'll catch you guys on the flip side.
Yes, sir. Another video in the books. We certainly appreciate the support. We will catch y'all later. We are out. Peace.
Go Kyrie. Go Kyrie. Cook him up.
Go PJ Washington.
PJ.
Yeah, boy, that boy playing for more than just